vehemently opposed, to what we thought, was a very, very good thing, that everybody would support, And, well, we certainly discovered, when I became Prime Minister of the Somalia Republic in 1967, I realized, that we were putting our head against the wall, and I started, to change tack and try and evolve a new approach. And I started, making, fences, mending fences, with Kenya, with Ethiopia, with the French, and I went to Paris, to Addis Ababa, and to Kenya. And we thought, that let us approach this in a peaceful way, but the damage was done.
The tyranny of Cigaal is often quoted as central motivation for the self-determination or the rights to self-determination of Somaliland. How have the people of Somaliland been victimized by the South?
Well, the thing is that, you see, as you said, we blame the dictatorship because it has been more pronounced. It was, the gravity, the domination of the North, of the South over the North, has started almost simultaneously with independence. But the first 9 years, there was a semblance of democracy at that time. So the domination, and the victimization, of the North, the pushing us into a second-class citizenship was done subtly, through political means, through, all that, for example, when we first united with the people, the whole of Somaliland, was one region. So we remained, the South and the North. That was the identity, was the South and the North. They start breaking the country, into small regions, so that we become just one of the regions, the overall identity of being Somaliland, has been completely destroyed, by this. But when the dictatorship came, and the Soviets, became, the power of, the influential power, in the area, I think they realized that our spiritual connection with the Arab world and Islam, that we made their task, of socializing the country, of eliminating Islam, as the major cultural influence, that Somaliland was an obstacle. Our trade links, our cultural links, our proximity, with the Arab world was such that we became, so even the Soviets themselves, approved, of eliminating the influence of the thing. That is, in fact, if they had their way, it would have been killed, That's one of the good things, the President Cigaal has done, He thought that he wouldn't benefit by killing me, but, so he kept me in detention for 12 years instead of killing me. But the Soviets wanted, the 28 members of my government who were arrested, at that time, on the 20th of October. The Soviet opinion was that we should all be eliminated, killed, the 28 of us all. So the cultural domination, has bred resistance from the South, and that resistance, had eventually came, naturally it was inevitable, it came to fight, to freedom fighting, it became to war. All the, I remember in 1985, I came here, for a short visit, and that particular day when I arrived, 35 young men who just came back from North America and Europe, each year, the least of them, with a BA degree, the rest with PhDs, and MAs and all that, were executed here on the suspicion that they were going to Ethiopia to join the SNM.
Somaliland also insists that it's had a different social and cultural experience to the rest of Somalia. This is strongly founded in the fact that this part of the Horn was colonized by the British, whilst the rest of Somalia was Italian. In Somaliland's view, it is these colonial influences that have historically led to different forms of political administration, which in turn has encouraged a different political culture between the people of the two regions. But considering that these people speak the same language, Somali, and practice the same religion, Islam, just how different are the realities of the North and the South that would make Somaliland a different country altogether?
We feel that our secession from Somalia, but the mentality of the people of Somalia That is why, I mean, the opposition of
mentality, how is the North fundamentally different from the South? You have the same religion, the same language, the same culture, but how are you fundamentally different?
There is something, which I think, in the future, some African anthropologists, would study more carefully and explain. But this is what I think. I think that the 80 years of colonial services, of colonialism in Africa, here the British, the French, and the Italian, has somehow imparted, to the people some kind of a cultural influence, which has been absorbed subtly, and imperceptibly. And we were surprised ourselves that in 1960 when we went there, before that, in every meeting, in every political rally, we used to echo these words, we are the same people, we speak the same language, the same religion. But in 1960 when we went there, we suddenly realized that we were not really the same people as we thought we were. There were some subtle differences between our system of logic and their system of logic, between their ethics and our ethics, between our attitude to women and their attitude to women. And it is subtle. It is something which has been. It is exactly what's happening here now today. For example, they couldn't conquer their chaos, but we have been able to conquer the chaos, and that is the reason why here the British, were ruling this country. They didn't attach any great importance to Somaliland. The only reason why they were here was to guard their way, the gateway to India. They were French, they were Germans, who were before the First World War, who were interested in that, So they came here, just to stop another power taking possession, of this route towards India. You see, they didn't attach much importance to it. There was never, more than 150, Englishmen, in the whole of Somaliland, The country was ruled indirectly through the traditional leaders, of the, leadership of the clans. So our traditional leadership here was enhanced and made more powerful under British colonialism. Whereas in Somalia, there was a settler, Italian settler. 25,000 people were settled, and another 25,000 were coming before war broke out. And the country was ruled not for the benefit of its people, but for the benefit of the settlers. And the Italians were ruling the country directly by themselves, not through any tradition. So the traditional leadership, of the clans in Somalia has absolutely atrophied during colonialism. So when the central authority disappeared here in Somaliland, we had this, the vacuum was immediately filled by the traditional leadership. And when I came into office here, all I had to do was to negotiate with the elders, bring the elders together. We brought them together in Borama, and immediately from there, through them, we have rebuilt the nation. In fact, we think we have invented a crisis management system, a system of crisis management and peacemaking, which I think has a lot to offer to Africa.
There's an executive cabinet, there's a parliament with the Senate, and there's a House of Elders. How do all these come into play to better the reconciliation process?
Everything is based on the clan. I was elected by an electoral college which was composed, of representatives of all the clans of Mogadishu. We are now trying to step away from that. You see, we have got this philosophy that tribalism cannot be eliminated, by a decree signed, or a law passed by parliament or a decree signed by a president. Tribalism is a stage in the evolutionary process of man. Anywhere in the world, every nation has once been a collection of tribes.